Titus Groan by Mervyn Peake. Read by Callum Hale, with music by Dylan Allcock.
Hold fast to the lore of the last cold tome, where the earth of the truth lies thick on the page and the loam of the faith in the ink, long fled from the drone of the nib. Flows on through the breath of the bone, reborn in a dawn of doom where blooms the rose for winds, the child for the tomb, the thrush for the hush of song, The corn for the scythe and the thorn, in wait for the heart till last of the first. Depart, and the least of the past is dust, and the dust is lost. Hold fast, hold fast.
Gormenghast, that is, the main massing of the original stone, taken by itself, would have displayed a certain ponderous architectural quality were it possible to have ignored the circumfusion of those mean dwellings that swarmed like an epidemic around its outer walls. The innermost of these hovels laid hold on the great walls, clamping themselves thereto like limpets to a rock. Over their irregular roofs would fall throughout the seasons the shadows of time-eaten buttresses, of broken and lofty turrets, and most enormous of all, the shadow of the Tower of Flints. This tower arose like a mutilated finger from among the knuckled masonry, and pointed blasphemously at heaven. Lord Sepulchrave cleared his throat.
My son!
His voice moved down the corridor and turned about the stone corner, and when he first heard the sound of Mrs. Slagg's excited footsteps, he continued.
Inheritor of the powers I hold, continuer of the bloodstock of the stones, approach me now. Approach now to the bowl where named and fated you shall be consecrate in Gormenghast. Child, welcome.
Sourdust approached Mrs. Slagg, carrying his great book with him, and opened the volume so that it fell apart in two equal halves. It is written, and the writing shall be adhered to, that between these pages, where the flax is grey with wisdom, the firstborn male child of the house of Groan shall be laid lengthways, and the pages that are heavy with words shall be bent in and over him, so that he is engulfed in the seer text, encircled with the profound, and is as one with the inviolable law. Nanny Slag lowered Titus within the obtuse V of the half-open book. Then Lord Sepulchrave folded the 2 pages over the helpless body and joined the tube of thick parchment with a safety pin. Sourdust attempted to lower the heavy volume to the table before the christening bowl. His fingers grew numb and lost their grip, and the book slid from his hands, Titus slipping through the pages to the ground and tearing as he did so a corner of the leaf in which he had lain sheathed. This was his first recorded act of blasphemy. Nanny Slag clutched Fuchsia's arm and with a scream of, "Oh, my poor heart!" stumbled to where the baby lay crying piteously on the floor. Dr. Prusqualler's white knuckles had travelled to his mouth with amazing speed. He turned to Lady Groan. "They resemble rubber, your ladyship. Just a core of India rubber with an elastic centre. Oh, yes, every ounce a bounce." "What are you talking about, man?" said the Countess. "I was referring to your child, who has just fallen to the floor, whom you can no doubt hear screaming." "So that's what it is," said Lady Groan. The Countess took Titus from Mrs. Slag and walked to the bay window. Fuchsia, watching her mother, felt something akin to pity for the little burden she carried, almost a fondness, for since she had seen her brother tear at the leaves that encased him, she had known that there was another being in the room for whom the whole fustian of Gormenghast was a thing to flee from. He was strange and unappealing, with his high shoulders and his large swollen forehead, but he was slender and young. There was nothing about him she loved except his youth and his bravery. "May I walk with you?" said Steerpike, sidling up. "Yes," said Fuchsia. "Oh, yes." She had never wanted him before, and was surprised by her own words. Steerpike shot a glance at her as he pulled out his small pipe. When he had lit it, he said, "Not much in my line, Lady Fuchsia. Earth to earth, ashes to ashes, and all that sort of excitement." "Not much in anyone's line, I shouldn't think," she replied. "I don't like the idea of dying." "Not when one's young, anyway," said the youth. "It's all right for our friend Rattleribs. Not much life left inside him, anyway." "I like you being disrespectful sometimes," said Fuchsia in a rush. "Why must one be respectful to old people when they aren't considerate?" "It's their idea," said Steerpike. "They like to keep this reverence business going. Without it, where'd they be? Sunk, forgotten, for they've nothing except their age, and they're jealous of our youth." "Is that what it is?" said Fuchsia, her eyes widening. "Undoubtedly," said Steerpike. "They want to imprison us and make us work for them." The chef, heaving himself grotesquely to his feet, could hardly get to the body of his victim quickly enough. He had waited so long for this. Mr. Flay's left eyelid fluttered. He focused the chef and was watching him through his lashes. The cleaver was lifted, but now he saw that Swelter was peering quizzically at the blade.
"Would you like to be wiped, my pretty one? You would, wouldn't you? Before your supper."
There followed a few moments of gastric chuckling before he began to drag the webbing from the cleaver's blade. So accustomed had Swelter become to the tickling of the webs across his face that he had not noticed that a spider had emerged from the grey muddle above the left ear. He lifted the long cleaver with both hands and, poised thus, went suddenly blind. His left eye had become involved with a female spider. It was this precise instant that Flay had been waiting for. Now was his moment, and gripping his sword, he rolled himself with great rapidity from beneath the belly of the cook and from the cleaver's range. Recovering, Swelter, with his cleaver extended, began to gyrate, his feet moving not only with the complicated kind of dance movement which swivels the body around and around at great speed, but in a manner that brought him nearer every moment to Mr. Flay. Moving backwards, he found that he was being forced toward the opening to the outer air, beyond which a great lake of rainwater lapped at the dusty boards of the hall. Flay, stepping backwards over the raised strip of boarding, sent up a fountain of lemon-yellow spray, spidering his legs through water as warm as tea. And then the horror happened. Swelter, following at high speed, caught his toe at the raised lip, and unable to check his momentum, avalanched himself into warm water. The cleaver sailed from his grasp, and circling in the moonlight fell with a fluke of flame in the far golden silence of the lake. As Swelter floundered like a sea monster, Flay reached him, towering above him, the dark, unpreaching body of his foe, with the hilt of his sword raised high and the point directed at the base of his ribs. The water about him reddened, and his eyes, like marbles of gristle, rolled in the moonlight as the sword plunged steeply.